All right. All right. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today's spotlight guest is Michael Bolton. That's right. Not that Michael Bolton. We're getting there, but this one you'll find is more special. Today, we're joined by Mike, dynamic leader and globe-trotting coach who's all about unlocking the potential in others. With over 25 years as a pastor, a college instructor, Mike now dedicates his time to teaching, coaching, and leadership training for both businesses and churches. As a John Maxwell Executive Director, we'll find out what that means on the show. Mike equips people with tools to break through the barriers and reach new heights. He's also an investor in several successful companies, bringing real world experience to the table. When Mike isn't traveling around the world, and I assure you that's quite often, he's enjoying life with his wife, Debbie, 3 sons, and 5 amazing grandkids between their homes in Texas and Alberta. Get ready to dive into some serious leadership wisdom with Mike Bolton. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thank you, my friend Drew. Good to be with you.
Yeah, man. This is a real treat for me. Mike and I have known each other for years now. We met in Texas. This is one of my favorite stories, really, of my life. So Mike was just starting coaching at the time.
Yes.
And he had got a group of guys together, and he said, "Hey, I need some paid coaching lessons. So I'll give everybody in here
paid coaching hours.
Yeah, paid coaching hours, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll give everybody in here, I think it was like 2 or 3 months of coaching for $1 an hour." And something came over me, and I was like, well, if I buy a whole package now, can I get 20% off? And without missing a beat, Mike goes, well, if you're that hard up for cash, I'll loan it to you at 6%. And from that moment forward, I was like, Mike and I are going to be best friends. So Mike's been a good friend of mine, a mentor, and just a longtime confidant. So Mike, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, that story is great. We did have a lot of fun. We were it was a group of guys. I think we were in a Bible study, I think is what it was. And sometimes, and Jack Welch talks about this, I know John Maxwell quotes him a lot, how to get out of the people pile. No matter what you're doing, get out of the people pile. You quickly got out of the people pile. You stood out among that group of someone who had a little initiative and a quirky sense of humor. So it definitely set you apart right away.
It was a good time.
It was.
So before that, Mike, you spent 25 years as a pastor. You were a college professor. And then your wife started a business, which you've done real estate. So just help the folks understand some of both your spiritual background, like how long you were a pastor and whatnot, and then also how you transitioned from the spiritual world into business.
Thank you. That's really the story of my life. I grew up. My dad owned a service station. He had a service station. We had a family farm. He got back in and bought another service station and a small motel. So there were 5 siblings in my family, 3 sisters and my brother and I. And so he bought this business, and free employment, as far as he was concerned, the kids, we were free employment.
Uh-huh.
And so, that was a big part of what he did. So I always had this desire. I remember when I was playing club hockey in 16, I'd moved away from home. And in the hockey program, it said, Mike wants to be in business in the future. And I had totally forgot about it. It was probably years later I saw it and went, man, that is true. I always had this inkling for business. But when I was in my first year after high school, I was studying in a Bible college while I was playing club hockey. And there was felt this call to church ministry, to be pastor. And it was one of those things, but it was in the church fellowship I grew up in. When you feel the call that direction, you no longer pursue worldly passions, worldly interests. It's all for Jesus. You put your hand to the plow and all those kind of things. And so
I say this all the time. Pastors are paid to be good. The rest of us are just good for nothing.
and it was this area of just moving into that and having to set all those aside. And so I ended up going to play college hockey, Div 1 college hockey in the U.S. And the hockey thing didn't work out that great. But I was studying in university communication and business and just loved it, though the church ended up hiring me as a campus and youth pastor. Kept going to school. So my calling was ministry, but my hobby, so to speak, was business. And so we pastored in the greater Toronto area and then back to Western Canada where I grew up. And I went back to the school that I had graduated from to be a college instructor there and teaching biblical classes and communication and other kinds of courses. Through unique circumstances, and I won't go into all those, there was this calling. When Debbie started a business, she's one of the co-founders of a company called Norwex, my wife. So this would have been 1998. And I started to see the impact that she was having with the people that she connected with. And I went, boy, that, she's having a positive spiritual impact on them, as well as financial and, stability for their family and opportunity. But they're not in our church. And how can that be? Because I thought everything good had to happen, within the confines of the church. And I remember somebody challenging me and they said, Mike, go back and read the life of Jesus. Where did he spend the majority of his time? He didn't spend it in the synagogue because he wasn't always received well there, but definitely wasn't in the temple. It was in the marketplace. And the light bulb went up in my brain as I reread and go, that's what I want to do. And so as a pastor, I started to get more involved in our community. I encourage people, get involved in city council, get involved in the school board, try to make a difference. We served our community, prayed for businesses, just was involved in as many things. And then I picked up this hobby called real estate.
Yeah.
And the cool thing was I was walking, it was a June. I was walking from my house to the church. It was about 3/4 of a mile. And I walked by this house and I went, it was a derelict rental. And I said to myself, if that thing ever comes up for sale, I'm going to buy it and fix it up. Don't ever say things like that. Because I'm talking within 2 or 3 days, a friend of mine who was a fellow Rotarian, he was putting the sign in and I go, Harvey, what's going on? My son, he lives out of town. I go, well, can I use the term hell? It looked like hell.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
It was an embarrassment. And I said, I'm going to put an offer in like today. And I put this lowball offer. I couldn't even get a mortgage because the amount was too low. I just had to get a loan.
Yeah.
And the bank goes, yes. So I fixed it up, turned it into a duplex. And it was my first one. And I ended up accumulating over the next couple of years, 30 rental. And I became, in our small community, 7,500 people, became one of the 3 largest landlords in our community as a pastor.
That's funny. But that's the role of a good leader in an organization. Well, sorry, in a community, right? Is we take the mess and we help clean it up, right? And that's what I think that you and I, one of the reasons we connect so well is we both love the Lord, and that spirituality is a big part of our life.
Foundational. Yep.
Yeah. But we want to see the light come into our communities, right?
Yes.
We want the hands and feet to be serving others. And to serve, you have to have abundance. You have to have excess capacity in order to serve.
Well, I tell you, when it came to donating, having money in the bank makes it a lot easier to make a donation to something you believe in. And Debbie and I got involved. I got involved as the chaplain for the local club hockey team. These are young men, 16 to 20 years old, living away from home, most of them.
Yeah.
Needing some spiritual guidance. And since I'd played, at that level and higher, and, our church provided a monthly chapel. We fed the guys, talked about Jesus, helped them out when they needed, some spiritual guidance, which was often.
Yep.
And just getting involved in the community, it just changed the whole dynamic of how I looked at things. And then in 2012, so it's 2012, because we met not long after that. We relocated from Canada to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The company was expanding, transitioned the church, and I went full-time into what you call marketplace ministry, or being involved in the marketplace. And the biggest connection for me was the John Maxwell organization, because the values were similar and the outlook was very similar, making a positive, being a person of value who adds value and builds people up. So we met early in that transition down to Texas when you came down there. Yes, we did. Probably at least 10, probably 11 years.
And we like we kicked back and forth leadership ideas. We kicked back and forth. You brought me along to some conferences, which
Yes.
opened my eyes to a much larger world. Um, and we couldn't quite find the click. And I think that I ended up moving back to Kentucky, and that's about the time that you found John Maxwell.
It was. It
Um,
was. Yeah.
and I was like, I kind of watched it from afar, and I was like, well, I know who John is, and I like his book because at that time I thought he wrote one book. I was like, I like his book. Um, Mike likes him. We'll see how this runs. So I was busy doing my own adventure, a side quest, if you will. And I noticed that that Mike is starting to travel the world with John. Like you've gotten on his leadership team, and I was like, oh, so when I turned to coaching, the number one reason I chose John Maxwell for leadership is actually because of you. I looked at because at that point you'd been with him for 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
and
2016 is when I started. So, coming up on 9 years now.
yeah, and I was like, man, because some programs you get with and you touch and you're like, okay, that was good, it added to me, but now I'm moving on, right? But you've been with him for a long time, and John is in all these different countries doing really amazing work. Like the nation, like the governmental structures of nations invite him in and ask for help
Yes.
about how to transform their countries, not even their organizations. So anyway, that's why I got into John Maxwell. So if you had one favorite John Maxwell law, mine is the law of magnetism, which is you are who you attract, not what you want, right? Do you have a particular Maxwell law that you like?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. Probably the law of adding value. Be a person of value who adds value to others.
Right.
You know,
Which means
I've,
you have
I,
to add more value to you, right?
and just growing in that. That to me is a leadership success. Zig Ziglar said, "You want to have success, help as many other people." And John quotes this because I think he first heard it from Zig Ziglar as well.
Yeah.
Help other people in their success, and you'll be successful.
Yeah.
And literally this week, I was with a young entrepreneur. He goes, "Mike, I need some help. I hate my business right now." And I
Oh,
go, "I get it. You've grown it to a level where you've learned to hate it because you've outgrown the systems that got you to this point." And so I put him on to another friend of mine who's a real good systems guy. That's not me, but I directed him, and we're going to connect this week and see if he can get some systems in place to grow his business because very successful.
yeah.
But
No,
he's at a point, law of the lid, right? It's
yeah.
grown to that. Now he needs to make some changes. But
Yeah.
that idea of adding value, it just, when he went away, he had hope. He came, he was discouraged, even he said a bit depressed. He left, he was hopeful. I
Yeah.
didn't solve the problem for him, but got him with some people. We're going to solve this problem.
Yeah. I have a friend who says concerns, or what you just said, kind of that hopelessness, almost depression, that concerns are the fuel of progress. That's where you're hitting this lid and you're like, oh, I have to grow now. I have to learn something new. It may mean I have to revamp the business entirely. But yeah, there's folks out there, and I want to be one of those folks. And I know that you've been one of these folks in my life and for others, where we keep raising our lid so that we can keep helping others. Right? There's humanity has almost a limitless capacity for success and progress.
Well, it was
And
interesting. You were at the last John Maxwell event,
yeah,
and we'll get into that, the Live to Lead, which
yeah,
you're going to be hosting. I'm coming down to help you with that in Kentucky. But the whole idea of, people say to John in his, what is he, 76, 77, he's at the top of his game.
yeah,
And people go, how's that possible? And he goes, a couple things. One, the game is infinite, to quote a Simon Sinek quote. The game started before I came along, continues when I'm there, and will continue on after me. So don't think for a moment that somehow you can slip into the game and then kind of retire from it and stay at the top of your game. No, you can't do that. You have to continue to grow. And what I see about John, and it's in his teaching, it's, boy, that is good. That's as fresh and relevant as anything I've heard. And people love being around him because he continues to strive to be at the top of his game. He doesn't step out of the game. And it's really inspired me. I'll be coming up on 61 soon in February.
yeah,
And I think, man, I'm as good as I've been. Like, it doesn't mean I didn't have something to say before, but life experience, insight, wisdom, understanding, humility, just all these things kind of come together to go, I think I really have something good to say. And I spoke at our Success Builders group last Sunday, and they can go on there and see that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And I talked about the 7 areas of life that dictate success: spiritual foundation, your health, health and fitness. Mentally, what are you learning? Emotionally, have you dealt with your stuff? Relationally. And here's a great question: do the people who know you the best love and respect you the most? Then your relationship is in a good place. That's a keeper, by the way. You can do your little.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have
You told
you.
me to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let me get this. All right. So you have spiritual foundation,
Yeah.
health, mental.
What are you learning? Emotional. Okay. Emotional.
And
Have you dealt with your emotional stuff? Do you have some emotional resiliency?
yeah.
Okay. Relational peace. And then your finances and your time management. Those 7 areas. In fact, Drew, if you, I'll send you the handout, and they can have that. If they just, what do they email you, and you can send it to them?
Yeah. If you guys, if for the audience here, if you can email me, I will set up a link sometime after the show, and then and I'll post it in the comments on all 3 channels here. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and
Good.
YouTube. And
Yeah.
then that way they'll have access to it. So we have, I think I got them all here. Let me post it. We have spiritual foundation, health, mental, emotional, relational, finances, and time management.
That should be the 7.
Right. All right. So, and do you have a name that you called? Did you just call them the 7 pillars or something like that?
7. I don't even know if I had a real phrase for it. 7 markers of success. Some people just think. People think if you have a nice car, you drive a Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever, you're successful or have a big house. No.
Yeah. No, I agree.
You don't have your health. You're not growing. You're not emotionally resilient. You're all by yourself because nobody wants to be around you. That's not called success. That's called stupidity.
Yeah.
They all always, dictated around finances and, do I got the Rolex and do I got, all that kind of stuff. I've been around enough of those people. Not all of them are as happy as they portray themselves to be.
Well, and that's kind of what I have. The reason I have all these triangles up here on my logo is that I call it, you start off with me, and then you go, and then you move to we. Like, so it's just you, and you're just trying to get your spiritual foundation, your health, and your mental. Then you move to we. You got a family that's involved. You got a work team that's involved. And then you go from we to us, and you start having this organization that there's friendships that are out there. There's these people that you kind of know, and you have an organization that's multiple teams, right? So
Yes.
as you scale, the requirement to keep growing, to make sure that you're big enough to keep leading that organization is a real key.
Well, yeah. If I'm growing, I'm going to attract like-minded people.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's fun to be around. I've, this journey over the last couple of years, I've had an opportunity to connect with some pretty amazing people. One of my favorite people in the world, Ed Milet. He's just a rock star because he's open and vulnerable, but he's had incredible success. Intellectually, I don't know where people are at with Jordan Peterson. He's a fellow Canadian and Albertan. He's pretty controversial, but he knows how to ask some good questions and challenging me to grow, mentally. Where am I growing? Listen, I have multiple university degrees. I have a doctorate.
One of them has a D in front of it, right?
What's that?
One of them has a D in front of it, right? Your doctor.
A couple of doctorates, yeah.
Yeah.
One in ministry, one in business.
Yeah.
So it's not as if I don't understand, but listen, that only indicates that I've had some success in the past. No guarantee of success in the future. So you got to keep growing. I'm always reading, always learning, taking courses, learning about stuff I don't know. And it keeps you in the game, keeps you relevant.
Yeah. I'm also going to pull this string on this health number. So you had kind of a health scare a couple of years back.
Coming up on 5 years.
It's already been 5. I mean, because I remember when it happened. I remember
it's 4.5 right now. So
yeah. So Mike had a heart attack, right?
I did. So here's what it was.
Really athletic. I mean, you were playing hockey through your 50s.
Yeah, I was. And, but here's the thing. The older, this is what athletes say. The older I get, the better I was. And you can live in this delusional world of denial It's not just a big river in Egypt.
Yeah, denial. Yeah.
And so I was overlooking some issues, and it caught up to me. And I had a heart attack, and then subsequently, a few days later, had quad bypass surgery.
Yeah,
So
the
doc said to me, "Listen, you don't have any other health issues. We'll pop the hood, we'll replumb, and you'll be good for. If you look after yourself, you're good for 30 years." So
yeah,
that was kind of his warranty.
Yeah, no, and you have, like, I've noticed over the last 4.5 years, you've seriously put energy into it. So I love that health. So I've come from Kentucky, the world of Southern comfort food, and that's not a big thing, right? But no, health is a very, very real. You can't lead if you don't have the energy to lead, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we focus. We have a great health doc who monitors us real close. Interesting. After the heart attack in 2023, so last year, I ran the LA Marathon to kind of celebrate my recovery. May not have been the best thing in the world to do for my knees, because I talked to my doc today. He says, "Mike, you have some damage in that right knee, probably when you were running."
Yeah,
I ran about. Yeah, I kind of run in the draft horse division.
Yeah,
I'm not a thoroughbred, but that's okay. I did it, and I won't do it again.
Yeah, that's funny.
I promise.
I'm glad you brought up your wife. Debbie is definitely your better half, and that's no offense to you, but she's fantastic. She's one of the few women that I've talked to, or just people in general. When I was in the room with them, I was intimidated by their raw authenticity and capacity.
Yes.
And care. Like, she deeply, like, you meet this woman and you're like, she's fantastic. She's amazing. She's had huge success in her life. And she's in this moment. She's one of the most present people I've ever met.
Yes.
She's in this moment talking to you, and she doesn't have an agenda. She's just dialoguing with you and then meeting you with whatever you're rolling with. She's super fantastic. She's founded Norwex.
She's one of the co-founders. There's three co-founders with Norwex. So she's one of the three. The company started in Norway, hence the name Norwex, Norwegian Experience.
Yeah.
And it just celebrated 30 years from its founding. She got involved a couple of years after, when they were expanding outside of Norway. So she changed the name to Norwex. She was the impetus for that. And she's, she moves things forward with the team, and there's a great team. She actually doesn't even have a title now, just co-founder. So she's kind of done everything that needs to be done and continues to.
And for years and years, she kind of held the spirit or the soul of the organization, right?
Well, people describe her, she's the heart.
Yeah.
She's the heartbeat of it, right? She's the passion heartbeat. Listen, other people, the original founding person, Bjorn Nikolajs, and now his daughter Beata, has taken over global CEO and chair of the board, and is doing a great job. It's a team that works together well.
Yeah, no, I was trying to just highlight Debbie's role, because I think it's interesting that when you have an organization, there's a CEO guy, the person with the vision that's running, and you of course have the sales folks and the implementers and the shippers and there's everybody in the organization.
Yep.
Everybody is important. But I think what some people overlook, and you brought it up in your foundations of success there, is that somebody has to own the soul or the heart of the organization. And you see so many like Apple's going through this right now. Steve Jobs clearly owned the soul of Apple. And I have mixed emotions on Steve, right? Like, I'm not saying that Steve was the greatest guy, but clearly when he left, Apple lost something both times that he left, right? When he left back in the 90s, and then
when they brought him back again. After having some success with DSL.
So you're a success. She's a success. You guys are running in opposite directions. And I know for a little bit there was some tension there, and then you guys were able to overcome that, which is a big story in today's world.
Well, it's a big thing for two strong-willed people to be hitched together.
Yeah.
If we're pulling in the same direction, it works really well. But she's strong-willed and I'm stubborn, so that can create its own challenges.
She's strong-willed and I'm stubborn. Yeah, copy.
I used to think it was the other way around, but I've come to my senses now that I'm the stubborn one. And so we do Life Rekindled together, and this has kind of three components, three passions of ours: marriage, mission, personal mission, your goal forward, and marketplace, business leadership. So kind of those three, that's our trifecta of what we really focus in on.
Yeah. And so how can people get involved with the Rekindled? Like if they are at this spot where they're like, hey, we're all successful. My wife, my spouse and I were successful. We're feeling the tension because it's a real, like my wife and I, we went through a spot of tension. And I think that, I mean, that underplays it, right? Like as when you're out there and you have a vision and they have a vision and they're different visions, how do you come back? Do you have any real quick advice on that? And then I'm going to ask
Well, some of it we wrote about in our book. We have a book on marriage, Ignite Your Marriage, and you can go on Amazon, Ignite Your Marriage, Mike Bolton, author, and it should come up there.
Okay.
We kind of chronicle foundational things for marriage. There's also one on mission, Ignite Your Mission. And then the marketplace one actually is in process with a fourth book hopefully coming out soon about those 7 areas of success. So, I've started to teach on it and turn it into a book. So,
yeah, no, that's good.
It's a work in progress, but marriage really is foundational, and you have to make room for each other. She has to make room for what God's called me to do, and I have to make room and celebrate and help her in the things God's called her to. It was interesting. Years ago, we were having some tension, and I really felt the strong voice of God and the Holy Spirit. However, people have different ways of interpreting that, but there was a still small voice that said, "Oh, by the way, Mike, I'm going to hold you accountable for the gifts that I put in your wife."
Oh,
and it wasn't a threat; it was just a statement of fact. How's that sound? I was trying to get the right wording of it. It was like a statement of fact, and it was, no, I need to do all that I can to help her fulfill all that God has created her to be. And when we did that, 90% of the frustration in our marriage went away, because I'm serving her and what God's called her to do. And obviously she responds. It's amazing. So in fact, I'm doing this recording in her office. Her favorite picture, her favorite picture of Jesus right over there.
Yeah.
And her office. And it's a great place to do. My office is upstairs and it's not quite finished. We did some renovating in the house, so it's in process. So having it here was good.
Good. No, I love that. I feel you're responsible. You're going to be held responsible for the gifts that were put in your spouse. I think that's a good challenge. It's just heavy. That's good.
And for our kids too. Here's the thing, Drew. You got kids. My kids are grown now. I have grandkids, and I really we talk often about what are their gifts and how can we help to maximize those gifts to make them the very best that they can be, not only for themselves but for the people around them. Be the best leader. Be kind, thoughtful, helpful, and fulfilling what you've been called to do. Because somebody's kids are going to change the world. Well, let me put it this way: everybody's kids are going to change the world, either for good or ill. So make it for good. Who knows what your kids? Who knows what my grandkids might discover? My oldest son's a physician, very successful. He's a rock star. He's changing his world and changing his region. One of my other sons is a high school or K-9 principal, changing the lives of kids. Now, my youngest son, and you and I have talked a little bit about his journey through addiction, and he's out the other side, coming up on a year sober. And what is his goal? To help people in that space, and doing a great job.
Yeah, actually, and first I'm going to give a DJ horn to your son there. That's coming through. That's on the other side of sobriety. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a real incredible journey, a journey for Debbie and I, but incredible journey for him. She was just with him yesterday for supper. I talk to him almost every day. It's an absolute miracle.
Man, yeah. Well, I'm going to transition a little bit here. You and I are doing a thing here in Lexington.
Yes.
Lexington, Kentucky on January 31st. So that's next year. It's brand new year. There's time and space to set that year up correctly, which is what we're trying to do. We're still kind of toying on a name with it, but we're calling it Set the Stage. So the idea is we're going to be setting the stage for your new 2025. It's a big
setting
year.
The stage for success. Yeah, we haven't kind of formalized it, but that's the idea. setting the
Yeah.
stage for success. You know, the new year, everyone's thinking about the new year. Most people's New Year's resolutions last about 10 to 14 days. And then they, you know, we're going, let's get kind of past that initial, I'm going to change everything in my life to, okay, let's get together and help you change some things that matter.
Yeah. And as a leader, it's our job to set the table or set that stage for our employees to shine. It's our job to set the stage so our customers can shine. And you can't if you don't live in a healthy community, then you have a problem too, right? So how can we help our communities shine and our
Well,
peers
yeah,
shine?
let me tell you a little bit about this Live to Lead, because back when I
Yeah.
was pastoring in Canada, the early renditions were Max Impact, Chick-fil-A Leader Cast, and then now Live to Lead. I hosted it back 20 years ago in the early renditions. John's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And so this new Live to Lead, we hosted here and in other sites. I'll be doing one in Hopewell Junction, just north of New York City. But there's some amazing speakers that we're going to have. These are some of them. I don't think we've decided exactly which ones to do, but Michael Jr.'s there, John Gordon, who's become a bit of a friend. And we really want to, and John Maxwell, obviously. But it really is an opportunity to hear from some of the best inspirational speakers. These aren't people who are thinking about doing it. These are people who are doing it.
Yeah.
And can really bring practical skills to bear. You understand this, Drew. One idea can shift the trajectory of someone's life. One
Oh,
idea.
100%. Yeah.
You read
Yeah.
a book, you go, oh, interesting. And then you come across that one idea. You listen to a podcast, one idea. You go to a seminar, one idea. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that nugget of gold. And so we're going to have this event. I'm excited to be there with you in Kentucky in the new year. For the
Yeah.
people, the community, we're going to be doing some things around that. And
Yeah. So let me just talk about the community here real quick. So
yes,
the Thursday before, this is going to be on a Friday. The Thursday before, there's going to be a free networking event. So I'm a part of a couple of communities. We have some good frameworks for that. So if you want to just come and mingle, meet other leaders here in Lexington, in the Bluegrass area, and then come to the Live to Lead event. These speakers cost $50,000 to $100,000 each to bring in, right? So
totally.
this is power packed group of folks. If you're the type of person that says, "Hey, I want more than just a regular ticket," we're going to have a VIP dinner, and then because Mike and I believe that things don't happen in a day, that they need time to grow. When you plant the seed, you got to water it, you got to cultivate it. We're doing, and then Mike and his team, which is Success Builders, is putting together an amazing group mastermind curriculum based on the speakers. So you're going to come and listen to the speakers. If you want a deeper connection, you're going to have the opportunity to connect on a deeper level. And then there's going to be 8 weeks of time that you and your team can really soak in the stuff that you've learned and dialogue with each other and meet other folks in the community that are on the same page as you, and connect virtually in that way. So that's the event and kind of the events that are surrounding it. Oh, and most exciting, you'll get to meet Mr. Mike Bolton live. Mike's coming. Mike is the crowning conversation piece. I'll be interviewing Mike at the end of the event.
Yeah, what they'll be doing is going to the bullpen and bringing a right-handed throw. Yeah.
That's right.
Mike might be the designated. I don't know what he's going to be, but Drew, you and I'll have a chance to kind of process what we've listened to during the day, and then some Q&A time. Those are my favorite things, to connect with the people on the ground. Like I said, I say to people often, if you're looking for answers, I may have an occasional answer, but what I can do is ask some questions. Most of the time, here's what I've discovered, Drew. People
Yep.
kind of know deep down inside, but they need someone to reach inside and draw it out of them. And I think I'm decent at doing that. It's not, here's what I've discovered. Consistency compounds. You just do the right things over and over again. This morning, I got up early. I have my healthy protein coffee with MCT, oil. I try to have a higher protein diet, which is good for men as we get older. I do my Bible reading. I do my learning in the morning, and I plan out the day. And of course, I was thinking about, our time together this morning. and trying to think of, well, what are some things that I could say, and that was one that came up. Just, it's the habits that you have every single day.
Yeah, man.
Consistency. Listen, consistency is more important than intensity.
Mm,
Consistency trumps intensity.
100%. Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, and you know, the black investing box system that I use to teach my kids money.
Yes.
I tell them all the biggest buildings in all the biggest cities have bank names on them because of the power of compounding, right?
Yes.
And that's available to you and me too. If you consistently put the energy in, focus in the morning, set priorities, manage your time, keep your self healthy, manage your relationships, all the 7 pillars that you started with there.
Yes.
Um, it then I love your ending phrase there, that intensity, or sorry, compounding
No.
is
Consistency trumps intensity.
intensity.
Yeah.
Consistency trumps intensity. I'm going to try to get
Yeah.
this written up here.
Because intensity, people think, well, I'll just work hard for a week. No, that's not going to do it. You can't. If you've ever tried that with exercise, the older we get, you just can't do that. You are going to be sore, and then you're going to quit, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of here's the thing. If you want to have New Year's resolutions, start now. Start today. Your 2025 New Year's resolutions. Start to build them in right now.
Yeah.
So you come into the new year with momentum.
Yeah. You know, and I read an article a long time ago. The book, I think, is called Habits. It's a yellow book with a black guy on a wheel.
Yes.
And he points out that, you know, we were all told that habits take 21 days to build, which is true. They do. But you actually have to break the other habit first. Then you have to build the habit, but then it still needs to be reinforced.
Yep.
So the cycle is actually a 60-day cycle. So most of us are like, well, I tried it for 3 weeks. That's the problem. It's really a 9-week project.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please do.
So a neural researcher, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, like Leaf.
Okay.
She did her doctoral research. She's a person of faith as well, and well schooled as well. And she goes, if Scripture says in Romans chapter 12 that your mind can be renewed, we should be able to see that in research with electron microscope, looking at neurons. And her doctoral research flushed that out.
Oh, that's
but here's
cool.
the key thing she says. Think about habits like walking the dog on a path.
Mm-hmm.
21 days, you start the path. Next 20 days, you got to do it 3 cycles of 21, 60 to 63 days to lay in the neural pathway.
There we go. 63 days.
So she backs it up with neural research. If you want to make changes, you have to give yourself 60, 90 days is probably more realistic.
Yeah. And that's the reason that we want you to come to this mastermind is
yes.
You're going to get inspired, and inspired, it's great. That's the first step, right? You got to say, wait a minute, I could be somebody different. And I think that people talk about inspiration as this emotion, but really what we want you to do is we want you to have an identity, a moment where you can choose, wait a minute, I want to be somebody different, right?
Yeah.
There's Richard Brunson has a great line. He said he first bought a drum set. He somehow sees it online. He buys this drum set. It comes in and he realizes, I don't know how to play this thing. And so then he tries to play it and he's terrible. But he said, if I'd looked at him like, I'm terrible, I guess I'm not a drummer, then he would have thrown the thing away. But he said, no, I'm a drummer. I'm just really bad at it. And the solution to being really bad at something, if you are a drummer, is to practice. And so he got a coach and he practiced. And so that's what we want for you. You come to Live to Lead. We want you to be inspired, have a moment where you can say, no, me and my organization can be something better. We can be something different. We can change Lexington and the Bluegrass and frankly, the rest of the world. But let's just start where we're at. We can be different. And then we want to help you with that 60 days of progress of let's get it going for at least 8 weeks.
Oh, that's, people have coaches for everything, right? They have health coaches and life coaches and mental coaches, even athletes. They have the coach that helps them with their technique, but there's also the nutritional part of it, the mental part of it, the relational part of it, because if an athlete has relational peace and good support, well, now they can focus on their craft. People understand this. This is not complicated.
I was watching this at the Olympics, right? We had the Olympics this year, and everybody that was getting a gold medal had a bench full of coaches, right? And so that you get coaches initially, you're like, oh, I don't even know how to play soccer. And then And then you go to the gold medal and folks has a bunch of coaches, but right in the middle there, they don't have that many coaches because some version of the statement, I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert here.
Yeah.
But then the ones that are winning, the ones that are really running it say, listen, I do know what I'm doing, but I need a coach that's focused on, I want the best in the world to be coaching me here. I want the best in the world to be coaching me here. I want the best in the world to be coaching me here.
Yeah,
right?
the best at anything have coaches, guaranteed.
Yeah.
And it's not by accident.
No. And they pay serious money to make it happen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we are starting to run out of the show, Mike. This has been fun catching up, and I legitimately mean that. Like we go way back. It's been a treat to be your friend for so long. I'm going to play a little closeout music and let you kind of finish up. I loved your intensity and consistency quote. I love. I mean, you and Debbie continuously inspire me as a married couple. We live in a world of disposable things, and marriage shouldn't be one of those. So let me just let you have the floor for a couple of minutes here as we close out, and then we will see you on the next show.
All right. Well, probably the biggest thing, and now as I'm grandparent. In fact, I was just looking at this picture right here. Now, this is an older picture, my wife and I with our 4 of our 5 grandkids. It's on her desk, so I just was looking at it. Oh, and look at that, and there's the one of our granddaughter who's now 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So first grandson comes along. He'll be 10 in January. And I remember when I heard his cry, I was close, but I wasn't in where the action is. My wife and my son, birth is messy. Okay? So I didn't be there. But when I heard his cry, these words popped into my head. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. 3 generations. And something clicked in me that from that moment forward, all the plans that I do have to revolve around legacy. We're all going to leave a legacy. We get to choose what it is. So choose wisely. It's going to be a financial legacy. It's going to be a spiritual legacy. It's going to be a health legacy. There's going to be a learning legacy. We're people who learn. There's an emotional legacy we're leaving. We deal with our stuff. I say this to guys all the time. Guys, deal with your stuff. Deal with your stuff. We all have it. We all have trauma, big T, little t trauma, right? Call it whatever you want, but we all got some of it. And you got to process that stuff because the things you don't deal with in life will eventually catch up to you. Relational legacy. We believe in marriage. We believe in family. We believe in the next generation. We have a legacy where we utilize our time well. We serve. We're involved in our church. We believe in those things. And so that to me has been, for the last 10 years, has been core to everything that I do. It's about building a legacy. And I really want to encourage people with that, no matter what age. You're going to leave some kind of legacy. Stephen Covey talks about in his 7 habits. Begin with the end in mind, right? So what do you want him to say at your funeral? Re-engineer, make that your life.
Man, that is a great way to close out the show. All right, everyone. This is Mike Bolton. Mike's coming into town on January 31st. If you want to meet him and grab some time with him, let's connect and stay connected on the Live to Lead event. Mike and Debbie run a number of things, including the Life Rekindled. So liferekindled.com and then successbuilders.ca.
Yeah, and the successbuilders.ca is an extension of the church we connect with, and it's our business network, of which my wife and I speak regularly on the platform for that. So there's lots of speakers. This last week, they had a successful couple do a great interview. I'd really encourage it to go on. The one from last week, what would that be? The few days ago. Anyway.
Yeah.
Not this Sunday, a week ago Sunday. Yeah, a week ago Sunday. So today's the 23rd, 8 days ago.
Awesome. All right. Well, Live to Lead is in Lexington on the 31st. If you want to connect with Mike in person, come here for that. If you want to just start following him, I deeply encourage you to. He's been a great friend and mentor in my life. And with that, we are out.